Hey guys, how's it going and welcome back. Alright, so yesterday I opted to put in 16 gigabytes of RAM into this HP, and that really improved things. I can now run Far Cry at all the highest settings possible on the game, and it's running flawless. It's like, this is sick. I love it. I've also installed a couple other games like Unreal Tournament and a game called Gun, and I still got boatloads to go through yet. I want to set this thing up for what I want it for, obviously. And that's the only reason I bought it, but I didn't count on putting games on this thing. I have a gamer laptop. However, I can't put high-end games on this thing, obviously. I did try. Didn't work so well. But anyways, load of some mid-ish kind of stuff, yes. And it seems to run them good so far. I still have more games to go yet. But anyways, I'm setting this up with games for the simple purpose of I live in the country, we do get power outages, I get bored quick, so yeah, I need to keep my hands occupied, my brain going, so yeah, I kind of need to do some gaming. And this laptop is very exceptional for gaming. I mean, for what it can run, I mean, it'll run it for hours. Like, this thing's rated already for 9 hours and 45 minutes top battery life. And then they have another rating slightly lower for other stuff. Of course, they don't list gaming, but even after 2 hours, I still only went through like 24% of my battery. So that was pretty good. And that was playing Far Cry, which can get pretty crazy. But anyway, so I thought, all right, I've opted for the 16 gig upgrade. That worked out great. And now I'm also not going to worry about going into swap space. Now the next stage was to decide on storage. I only had 150 gigs free out of the 256, and I know that games are going to suck things up. And of course, I'm keeping this laptop until the day it dies. At least that's the plan. Whether it works out, we'll see. But I thought, you know what? Why not just go for even doubling the capacity? And I had here what's called an XPG Gamix 512 S11 Pro 3D NAND PCI NVMe Gen 3x4 M.2 SSD, which is a 2280 size. So it's basically your full-length size. And so it does have a heat shield on it, and that was my one concern. Do we have enough, even airspace going to be left over? It turns out, yeah, no problems. It really didn't add that much, so even if you don't get this drive, because it does have some pretty impressive speeds, whatever drive you do get, if you get one that does have a heat shield, not that you need it because you don't, so you can be more than fine to just buy a drive without one. But if you do buy a gamer class 1 or one that's very high performance, they usually have heat shields already on them, and if they do, make sure it's a very low profiled one, because you do have the space, but you don't want to have something in there that you buy and next thing you know the lid doesn't close because it's too tall of a heat sink, right? And anyways, but this is the original one, which I've installed into the casing that the 512 was in. And as you can see, there's no real circuitry on the top of this drive, and there's nothing on the bottom of it. And this is the 256. Now, it had about what we're getting for write speeds here at 2225. It had a little over 2,000 on the read side. And then it was much lower on the write. Now we've got the opposite flip. Now we've got 3453.98 on the read, and we've got 2225 on the write. So we're definitely, that was fully worthwhile, obviously, which I figured we would definitely see some pretty honking speeds anyways. And this drive is like very borderline on the read to what its read rating is, which is 35. It's rated for up to 3,000 megabits per second write speed. They do tell you on the website, though, that will or may vary with capacity of drive how fast that's going to be, okay, in realistic terms of the read and writes. And I think we're doing pretty good on the read and definitely exceptional on the write speed, even for a 512. But they have these things in 512, 256, 1 and 2 terabyte models. Now, right now the 512 is out of stock, and so is the, I think the 2 terabyte would be, at least for this one. But they do have a little lower speed drive, and that one right now is available in 256, the 512, Yep, that's in. The 1 terabyte is in. Now that lower end one, it's only rated for 2100 megabits per second on the read and 1500 on the write. So it's a much lower end, still having the heat shield, but if you really want to juice things up, 3500 megabits per second, we do have the 1 terabyte available. The 256 is there. And the 512, it says see all buying options. So the XPG store itself, which is where I'm at on Amazon right now on the Canadian website, does not have the 512 in stock on their page, but you may be able to get it by seeing all buying options, because there are other sellers that will sell this brand as well too. So but I don't know what's available or not available on the .com Amazon. It's kind of like, you know, if you live in the States, you buy from the States website generally, right? But anyways, these are definitely compatible with Macs and PCs. However, on the Mac side of the house, you're going to have to go external with it, because internal Mac connections are not an M.2, okay? And they do specify this is not compatible with Mac, but that's only if you're going internally. Externally, not a big deal, because this is the carriage that I have here, which is actually from, it's called a, oh, I can't even pronounce it, I'll just let you guys read it if you can. It's ELUTENG, and it's got its own heat shield in it too, which is kind of cool. You can get these for like next to nothing on Amazon, and Type-C cable and Type-C to Type-A cables come with it. I've used both on the Mac, and I've used this particular drive on the Mac externally. It's the internal part that the Macs do not do, the M.2. They're just weirder connection points. Anyways, when you clone this, when you clone your drive to go to something like this, or, well, even any drive, period, what happens under Windows 11 at least is usually BitLocker is enabled, especially on Windows 11, but could be on 10 as well. It won't copy the BitLocker, okay? It does say you can reactivate BitLocker after everything's done and you've made sure that the system boots fine. And if it does, then great. Then if you want to re-enable BootLocker, you can. It's just a precautionary encryption thing in case your computer gets stolen, is what they say. So it's kind of like, well, whatever. I mean, I've never had it enabled on computers before, but this one came pre-enabled, and whatever. It is what it is, but you can re-enable it if you so choose. I may even re-enable it just because the other one is, and I'm a little OCD. But anyway, so we got some impressive read-write speeds. Next thing we got to do is see how this thing does now for video editing with having the 16 by half a terabyte configuration and a way faster drive. Because drive speed does make a huge difference when you're exporting and doing other jobs within your editor. That drive speed is very important to be as fast as possible if you want to get things done. And of course, having real RAM in there instead of running off of virtual 16 gigs of RAM, we're going to be more than fine. We're not even going to touch virtual memory at all, so we're not worried about that. But and having the improvement just alone on Farcry of being able to run all the settings full blast now and no restrictions, it should be even better now with this drive. And I only tested Farcry with the 16 gig in there, and it's like, wow. But anyways, well, you know what? Let's what do you say? Let's do this. I'm gonna fire up Farcry. I'm kind of curious. I'm pretty sure you guys are too. Besides, we're only at 9 minutes, right? We're okay. So let me just re-angle the camera a little bit here. Now, I am going to show you the settings I have for video now. Advanced. So everything's on very high, except water is all on ultra, because it's the only setting that goes to ultra. So the highest is very high. Okay. We're also at 1920 by 1080, 32. Okay. And that's as high as we go. Alright. And campaign, or checkpoint, I think this is a good idea to do this test. Now you'll see the thermometer going along the bottom. The faster your computer is, the faster that's going to go, and that's pretty impressive. So that's definitely a good booting into this better. Let me see if I can give you guys a bit better picture. I'm going to have to turn off the camera light here. That'll probably help. Now one thing I look for is any kind of stall outs when I first fire a gun. None. No lag. We had one little stutter, but not bad. Oh, I'm dead. He snuck up on me. Alright, so it's running great. So stay tuned. We are going to do a video editing test. And of course, you know, I am going to fast forward that part where it's doing the export only because, hey, that's the timer, man. And we'll find a comparison, because what I'll do is I'll take the timer off of my first video when we did this completely bone stock machine. And now that everything's upgraded, we'll have something to compare against and see how much more time did we save just by doubling the RAM, and not only doubling our capacity, but also way more than doubling more or less our speed for our drive for reads and writes. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one.